Shalom. Before I begin this video, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Chakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. They continue to rule very well to this very day. That is feeding the flock through the Spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. And also as well, Shalom to the hopefully elect as well. That's continually laboring this work. That's giving you due diligence to make your calling and election sure, in faith, in truth, sincerity, and all charity. Now it's going to be a response to the, emotional Israelites that you see on the screen here, in which they are indeed emotional, concerning the topic of prostitution, in which it was a certain way of going about things when it comes to prostitution back in the ancient world. Okay, because in today's time, the people today that grew up in this Western society, they were brought up a certain way in which is basically they're all sensitive. When it comes to topics like this, these people have been groomed up to be soft. Okay. Because whenever topics like this come up, people get offended of what was being done back in the ancient world, and they also speak about, things that were done back then, they make statements saying that they don't work now. But why is the world today in such a state that it is in right now, and not just on the topic of prostitution, but, other things as well, pursuant to the ancient world, how things were done, how things were kept and being kept up with. Those things worked during that time is because, you had a certain people that were in rulership during that time, okay? And certain things were being kept up with and conducted a certain way. And now due to the one who was in rulership today, which is Esau, which is the progenitor of the Edomites, in which the Edomites are the true biblical nationality of the so-called white man. They're in rulership today. Okay, and since they're in rulership, and you see the way that they have ran the planet Earth, all right, it shows you that things that are back in the ancient world that are being kept during that time is not being kept today, and that's why the world is in such a state that it is today. Because again, the ones who are in rulership. But not to get too far off topic, concerning the topic of the ways of the ancient world, okay, which I made title this video as the ways of the East. The ways of the East are far from, people that grew up in a Western mentality, okay? Because the Western mentality teaches you to be soft, to be nice, and, this and that, and, and to be in a gray area. But when it comes to truth and everything that encompasses the truth, it's a right and a wrong. It's a light and a dark. Okay. There's a way to go about things. There's a way not to go about things. Okay. And in this case of prostitution, all right, it was a certain way that was supposed to be kept. It's a certain way that you're supposed to go about prostitution in the ancient world. Okay. And the things that are being done during that time. Okay. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and jump to the precepts. The first one I got here is Job chapter 8, verse 8. It says, "For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers." Okay. So you're supposed to inquire of the former age and prepare thyself to the search of your forefathers, man. Okay, in which your forefathers, or our forefathers, in which our forefathers are the Israelites. In the nation of Israel, there were certain things that you would do there's certain things that you would practice or put into practice in society. Okay, because you have laws, statutes, and commandments that deal with the society, that deals with the monetary system, welfare, the infrastructure. Okay, it's not just 10 commandments. All right, it is more than that. There's other laws that tells you what to do and how to go about doing things. Okay, and during the time in the ancient world, the Israelites were doing that. Okay, but just to add in an extra note, not to get too far off topic, they weren't keeping everything that's within the law. That's why we're in the state that we're in today. Okay, but the ways of our forefathers were the ways of the East. Okay, the Eastern world. Okay, because if you go to the eastern part of the world today, all right, and you will see how things were being done, or things are being done over in the eastern part of the world. You will see that this is very, very different than what you see here in America or the western part of the world. Okay, because they still hold the majority of the customs that they did back in the ancient world in those eastern countries. Okay, and that's why you have certain nations that are in that part of the world that are still trying to hold on to the ways of the old world. Okay, because they worked. Okay, because they also understand that the ways of the West is what's deteriorating the world today. Okay, but I'm gonna go ahead and jump to another precept. I just want to bring out a quick I want to say an occurrence that happened during the ancient world that took place concerning our forefather, one of the patriarchs of the nation of Israel, of the 12 tribes, which is Judah. Okay, now this is the case of Judah. All right, this is the book of Genesis. I'm going to start at chapter 38. And I'm starting at verse 11. It said, Then said Judah to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow at thy father's house till Shelah, my son, be grown. For he said, lest peradventure he die also as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted and went up into his sheep shearers to Timnath, he and his friend Hirah, the Adulamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, Behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnath to shear his sheep. And she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnath. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given unto him the wife. So she was ready. Shelah was ready for to take Tamar to be wife, but Judah didn't do that as of yet. Okay, so she put off the widow's garment from her, all right, because she was a widow, all right, and she went to an open place. Now, the apostles and the elders recently did a video concerning prostitution. The apostle elder Ramlav and the apostle elder Gabar, and went into the word prostitution, and that word means to stand before. Okay, it's a compound word which means to stand before. In other words, to put yourself out there. So that's why when she put off her widow's garment, she put on a veil and a covering, and she went into an open place. She put herself out there. All right, and that's what the word prostitute means. Okay, to be out in the open place. Okay, to do that. So verse 15 says, when Judah saw her, he thought her to be an harlot. Why? Because she was in an open place, right? She was prostituting, right, out in the open place. Okay, and he mistook her for being a harlot. Okay, because she had covered her face. Now verse 16 says, and he turned unto her by the way and said, Go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. In other words, let me deal with you. Let me have sex with you. Okay. All right, let's get busy. Okay. He said, let me come in unto thee, for he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, what wilt thou give me that thou mayest come unto me? So this is an exchange being done. Okay. And this is what the process is. So when you meet a harlot, all right, there's an exchange that goes on. So for her services, right, and it's more in depth when you go into when you go into the prostitution in those days of harlots, because it was a certain way that they go about doing things as well. You know, it's deeper than just, you know, getting a woman. And in those days, it was deeper than getting a woman and laying down with her. That's part of it. But there was other duties that she would do as well. Okay? In exchange for his goods. Okay? So he turned in unto her by the way and said, Go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee, for he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What wilt thou give me that thou mayest come in unto me? And he said, I will send thee a kid from the flock. And he said, or she said, Slakia, wilt thou give me a pledge till thou send it? And he said, What pledge shall I give thee? And she said, Thy signet and thy bracelets and thy staff that is in thine hand. And he gave her and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. So he went in and did his thing, okay, and she conceived. All right, she bore a child. Okay. Now I'm gonna skip down a little bit just for the sake of time. I'm gonna jump down to the point, and then I'm gonna close it out on this. But you know, like I said, I'm just bringing this out just to, you know, make a quick point to show you that this is what was being done in the ancient world. Okay. Let's see. Let's get down to verse 24. It says, And it came to pass about 3 months after that it was told Judah, saying, Tamar, thy daughter-in-law, had played the harlot, and also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, Bring her forth and let her be burnt. Okay. Now, when she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, By the man whose these are, am I with child? And she said, Discern, I pray thee, whose are these, the signet and bracelets and staff? And Judah acknowledged them and said, She has been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shalom my son, and he knew her again no more. Okay. So that's it. All right. So Judah, for what he did, you know, he lived on. Okay. And afterwards, there were twins that were conceived out of Tamar. Okay. And there were other occurrences in the scriptures as well, in history, that took place concerning harlotry and prostitution. And they were men of the Lord. Now, was Judah wicked, or was he a wicked man for doing that? All right. No, he wasn't. Okay. Judah is a righteous man, along with the 12 patriarchs, or the other patriarchs, the 11 patriarchs. All right. Also the case of Hosea. Okay. Hosea is a man of the Lord. Okay. And a prophet. Now, was he also a wicked, you know, was he a wicked person for doing that? No, he wasn't. Okay. He was a righteous man. Okay. And you have other occurrences as well that happened with harlotry that took place. But you know, this is just one of the examples to show you that this is how the customs of prostitution were being done. You know, now you had this, and you had another sort of prostitution that took place that was called, which is a term called temple prostitutes. Okay, but that was something that was not to be done in the nation of Israel. Okay, because temple prostitution was there to serve other gods, for the purpose of serving other gods and worshiping other gods. Okay, but the other sort was done just out of circumstance. Okay, and that was one of the circumstances that you saw right now with Tamar. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and off on that note. Again, you know, I just wanted to make a quick point. Lord's will is edifying to the elect of the nation of Israel. Till next time, once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the others of great millstone that rule well to this day. Shalom, peace and safety, and salutations to the hopefully elect that's continuing labor in his work. Give me your diligence to make your calling election sure, and faith, in truth and sincerity, and all charity. And with that, it goes to Shalom.